Public testimony is an important part of writing new laws. Lawmakers want to hear from you on how a bill might impact your life. Your perspective could make or break a proposed piece of legislation. In this video, we'll offer some tips and suggestions on how to deliver effective testimony before lawmakers. Keep your oral testimony short and to the point, but try to make it memorable.
I am here to ask you to support the bill so the signs will say something like people at work instead of men at work. I'm an 11-year-old girl, and I know that men would not like if the work sign said woman at work.
The most effective presentations I remember when I was in the legislature was like people coming and looking directly at you and saying, here is why I need this to happen, or here is why I think this is going to be a problem. I mean, you can bring written testimony if you want to, and legislators may or may not read it, but the personal story has a big impact.
Your written testimony should be submitted before you head to the hearing. Written testimony is submitted electronically so that it can be posted to the committee's website for members to review. Committees may also want hard copy of your testimony. When presenting testimony before the committee, you can always direct them to your written testimony for specifics. Now remember, there is a time limit for your verbal testimony, but there's no limit on your written. Check the bulletin for details.
So I would encourage people not to read from their written testimony if at all possible. It's good to submit written testimony. Many committees, if not all of them, will require it. But to sit there and just read from what you've already submitted is going to prompt some legislators to just tune out.
After you conclude your testimony, you may face questions from lawmakers.
If you can be effective in grabbing that committee's attention in the first 30 seconds to a minute, you may get more questions. And if you get questions, that's where you can end up getting a very effective dialogue about the legislation that you're there talking about.
Some people find it helps to rehearse their testimony at home.
Really to practice. It's really important to sit there and try to deliver the message to other people so that they can give you tidbits on how to improve.
So they'll be seeing legislators coming in and out of the seats. And it's not because legislators are not interested in the issues that are being discussed or are inattentive. It's because they have other hearings and committee meetings that they must attend that are going on simultaneously.
It's important to understand that what you say when you're orally testifying is written down. There's a transcript made of every single person who testifies in front of the committees. And a lot of times when legislators are trying to figure out whether or not to support a bill, they'll look back at what people actually said at the hearing, not the written submission they provided, because those tend to be very long, but it's those powerful words. And if you can do what politicians do, they figure out what's the best soundbite, right? How do you express yourself in just a few words? And speak slowly and speak passionately. Those symbolic messages have a big impact.
Hearings can last for several hours or even an entire day. When it comes time for you to testify, avoid repeating what has already been said in previous testimony. Instead, try to focus on your unique perspective and experience.
And sometimes it's the final few people, the last 2 or 3 people to testify, that had the biggest impact, because clearly they'd been waiting all day. They weren't lobbyists, they weren't professionals, and I always found that people were really listening to the last couple of witnesses.
Speaking before the committee can be intimidating. If you're uncomfortable, you can appoint a representative or a translator to present your testimony for you. If other speakers have addressed all your points, you can tell the committee you'd like to be associated with the previous points for the record. Also, this is the time to encourage lawmakers to take action or not to take action.
The Constitution is we the people. That's your job. You're to bring us together. You're to find that balance for us. That's your job.
The more people you include in that process of community dialogues, then the more voices and perspectives are reflected in the outcomes that come out of those processes.
When people personalize the bill, when people were able to sit there in front of the committee and say, look, here is the impact this bill will have on my life, or my child's life, or my family's life, or my business's life. When someone personalized it, so now you're saying, okay, now I'm getting a handle on what the real impact of this legislation will be. that's when you sit up and listen.
We hope this program has given you an understanding of the public hearing process. Remember, your voice, opinion, and testimony matter to lawmakers. I'm Diane Smith.